great guys. Please welcome Dylan Horvat, everybody. My brother said he'd film. Are you filming?
Yep.
That's a good brother. So yeah, I'm Dylan Horvat. Last time I was up here, I was talking about how my family has a cat named Gypsy. So I have a cat with a name that's an ethnic slur for the Romani people. Last time I said Romania, I didn't even get that right. But it makes me think about what is a slur. So I looked it up in the dictionary, and apparently to slur means to speak indistinctively so that the sounds run into one another. So really anyone who's had a few drinks says slurs all the time. Maybe it's not that bad. But what's I want to get is the M word. Not the N word, the M word. You can't say the N word, you have to say either little person or dwarf. Now, little person is a description, but not to mention a vague one. Like, I'm 5'7". A lot of people would regard me as a little person, not necessarily a midget. But dwarf I don't get either, because that comes from German mythology, meaning a creature that dwells in the mountains. And I don't think Peter Dinklage has ever done that. But to be fair, whenever we see a really tall person, we tend to call them giants. I think we should just be named after the mythological creature we most resemble in height. Trust me, I'm a goblin. And speaking of size, there's always a debate on what the average dick size is. Mainly because women who've had a lot of dicks like to tell you what the average dick size is. Never believe them. Because who are they sleeping with? Usually guys with big dicks. So if a girl tells you that the average dick size is 8 inches, don't believe them. For my sake. Because I don't think the amount of cocks that your friend Lisa has taken counts as an official statistic. My girlfriend says I have a big dick though. My girlfriend says I have a big dick. Because we like to roleplay. I love doing stand-up comedy. I just love stand-up comedy. I think my two favourite stand-up comedians are our Australian boys, Carl Barron and Jim Jeffries. Yeah. I have a lot of other favourites too, but they're all getting cancelled for making transphobic jokes. Don't really like Ricky Gervais or Dave Chappelle anymore. But I did see Carl Barron live at the WEC this year actually. And at one point he goes to an audience member, "Oh, you're a boy or a girl, you can't tell these days." Almost had a fucking heart attack. Then he goes, "Yeah, I can't see the audience because of the lights." Biggest sigh of relief I've ever made. I'm still allowed to like Carl Barron. Saw Jim Jeffries at the WEC this year also. He made a lot of transgender jokes in this show. I'm still going to enjoy Jim while I can before that show drops on Netflix. But it's okay, because next week I'm seeing my third favourite stand-up comedian, Louis C.K. He's never been cancelled for making transgender jokes at all. He's been cancelled for other things. I'm not going through the entire history. If you know, you know. Trans people have it rough though. There's so much denial that they even exist. Like whenever I say I'm with my trans friend and I use their proper pronouns and name and everything, old people feel like, you believe in that? Like I said, I was hanging out with this ghost and this Martian. But old people will always say shit like, "Oh yeah, trans people didn't exist in my day. Trans people never around." I mean, they probably did exist. They just didn't feel like telling you that they were the opposite gender back in the 1950s, because you probably would have killed them. Just say you don't get it, because that's fine. I don't get it. I don't understand it, but just because we don't understand something doesn't mean we can't accept and respect it. For example, I also don't know what it's like to be black. But wouldn't you know, black people exist. And everyone believes them when they say they're black. I'll let it carry along for a few minutes. No, I'm kidding. But you ever notice that old people they'll only regard a trans person by their birth name and not their chosen name. But with foreigners, it's a completely opposite story. They'll be like, "Your name is Jane now?" "Nah, you were born with the name James. Your name is James." oh, you were born with the name Muhammad Abdul? Yeah, but your name's Greg. That's what you're saying to me. Your name's Greg. I actually have a really progressive family when it comes to that stuff, but I'm completely cisgender and heterosexual. So it's kind of a waste, really. Like, all my parents and grandparents and aunties and all that are all said they'd be fully accepting. Me, my siblings and cousins, not even a gay among us. Massive waste. It feels like I'm living in this giant mansion with a million unused rooms, and all my trans friends are outside knocking the door being like, we're so hungry. And I'm like, sorry, get better parents. And then I lock the door and pull them slow or something. That's what it feels like. It's just what it feels like. Alright, I'll give the mic back to Mike now.
Hey.
Dylan Horvat, everybody, keep going. Very nice. Dylan is right. Obviously, the trans issue is massive right now. I have a dear friend who is a trans man.